Hello, everyone. Welcome to season 7 of the Powerhouse Woman Show. That feels so good to say that. I'm your host, Monica Pierre. Thank you so much for joining us live. 7 seasons ago, right in the shutdown of COVID, I had this idea that I would do a show. And it would be on Facebook, I'm sorry, on YouTube, and I would do it. And let me tell you, rough. I'm so used to having a full studio. We have cameras, we have people who are operating the cameras, people doing the graphics. But I decided that it was going to be what it was going to be, and I was going to create it. And that's how it all came about. I've had some of the most amazing women on the show, and not just from the New Orleans area or the United States, but also from Canada. And we've had one guest from London. Wow. So the show has evolved, but it's always been about telling the stories, lessons learned, wisdom shared of women who are doing it. And it doesn't have to be in competition. Some are entrepreneurs, some are leaders, some are organizations, some are doing good work in their communities and in their areas. And that's what we're going to talk about. And in season 7, our theme is going to be Rise in Your Power. Rise in your power. And I think it's just the boldness that we need right now. So, on today's show, the premiere of season 7 of the Powerhouse Woman Show, we're talking to someone who is phenomenal. And when I tell you I love her name, I love what she's all about. And we're joined by the one and the only Ebony Allen. I still think you have a Hollywood name.
I
Ebony
love to
Allen.
hear you say that. Good morning.
Ebony is a therapist, and she's also the founder of Brookhaven Counseling and Consulting Services. We're going to be talking about, do you ever feel that sometimes when you walk into certain situations or certain rooms that you don't belong? And no one's telling you that. Maybe some people are giving you that vibe, but for the most part, that's what you're thinking. That's
Mhm.
what you're telling yourself. So, we're going to talk to Ebony today about how to deal with that. What do you do to silence this whole idea that you don't belong? And what happens when you decide, you know what? Not only do I belong in this room, I can create my own room. Ebony, thank you for joining us on the Powerhouse Woman Show.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Wonderful. Let's just a little background. I'm always curious. I love backstories of all the
Sure.
things in the world that you could have decided to do or become. How did you end up or end in the area of therapy and helping people with mental health issues?
Sure. I think it was nothing but God that led me here. I would always, when I was a child, I would always play school. And I was always the teacher. I wanted to be the one talking and be the one in charge. And that desire led me to go to college to want to help people out. And then when I was an undergraduate, I majored in psychology, I got my degree in psychology, and then that led me to discover the field of social work. And in discovering that field, I was working in the education field, and I kind of decided to marry the two and became a school social worker and went on to get all of my licensing and credentials that I needed to then open and run my own private practice.
That is great. We have these candid conversations, and thank you for sharing your story. What is the most, to date, rewarding thing about the work that you do? And what can be the most challenging about the work you do?
So the most rewarding part of my work is watching the evolution. So having a long-term client or working with students and seeing how they come to me in the very beginning and then watching them evolve as they learn those coping skills, as they learn those techniques to help themselves, being able to step back and really appreciate the growth that a client or a student can exhibit over a period of time.
We talked about this focus is going to be on belonging. You already belong. And that's sometimes very challenging for many people to believe. And I don't know necessarily say,
Mm,
especially women, but there are times when, even when we're self assured, even when we have so much to offer, there are those little moments, those little whispers that say, you don't belong in here. They're going to
yeah.
find you out. Baby, you should get more degrees, more certification. How do we know that these voices are really coming and impacting or affecting our brilliance?
Hmm. I think the the beginning of those voices, it all starts with your core beliefs, the things that you were made to believe through a number of different avenues as a child. And then those core beliefs just develop in different ways as you grow up into adulthood, into professionalism. Um, they exist, right? Sometimes those core beliefs come from family, they come from our environment, they certainly come from society. And when you become an adult, particularly a Black woman, you notice that often you have to work twice as hard. You have to be twice as good as your male counterparts, as your white counterparts, and living that day in and day out, sometimes you can begin to internalize, well, if I have to be twice as good at everything, then maybe I'm not as good. If I have to show up, twice as hard as everyone else, then maybe I'm not as good as everyone else. And I think that it can show up differently for different people, depending on your background and where you are in life. But I don't think it's something that we experience just in isolation. The more I talk to Black women, successful Black women, the more I'm able to see that many of us kind of feel that same imposter syndrome.
Right. And that's a tricky word because I most of the time I just hate the word. I hate the phrase.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
whether you call it that or something else is something that is going on and that
mhm,
impacts and drains energy oftentimes from us. And when we are called to do something different, bigger, greater, whatever, it's always in the back of our minds as well. So how do you
yes,
help your clients? How do you help people that you interact with know that this is something that you can rise above or manage? Maybe
yeah,
not getting rid of it altogether, knowing that as you get to higher levels, it's going to come back in some form or fashion. But how do you
yes.
manage it?
What I say is that we have to be brave. And when you think of what being brave means, it doesn't mean that you are not afraid. It doesn't mean that you are not nervous. And it doesn't mean that you don't have self doubt. But being brave and overcoming it means that you show up anyway. So you can be afraid and do the thing afraid. You can be nervous and have anxiety and still do the thing. And the more you do the thing, life in turn teaches you that you belong at this table. You belong in this room. And I recently heard, I can't remember where I heard it from, but I'm going to give them credit, whoever it was. I recently heard that if you don't think I belong at the table, then you are at the wrong table. If you
Wow.
don't think that I belong in the room, then you are in the wrong room. I belong here. God orchestrated my life so that I end up in this space. And if anyone else in this space has a problem with me being in this space, then you are in the wrong space.
I have never heard that, but I will definitely adapt that and we'll find out who said it so that person can
Yes.
get credit.
Yes.
So, but there are also times when we know we belong in the room,
Yeah.
a table, we belong there as well. But there are often times, and I've noticed when you even talk about my show, the Powerhouse Woman Show, I cannot tell you, Ebony, the times that I have been told no when I worked in traditional media, whether it was radio or
Yeah.
television, that I couldn't have a show. Or they put me through all these hoops. Do this, do a pilot, do blah 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 blah, and the result was always the same. My mindset now is if I don't, I'm going to create it. And it
Yeah.
may not be whatever, but it's going to be started and it's going to happen. When do you feel that there are people who say, I need to create what I don't see or create what I want?
It dawned on me a long time ago that there are gaps that I see in professional life. There were gaps that I saw in student life. They just exist specifically for Black women. And we have two choices. We can either go without those gaps being filled, or we can have enough courage to be brave enough to fill those gaps. Um, I just take the latter route.
You take the latter route,
Yes.
and because I think we talked before about, two things can be true at the same time. You
Yes.
could still go to things that you don't feel see the representation, and you can also create something that nurtures the representation that you're looking for and the participation that you're looking for. And I think
Yes.
one of the things that might be great right now is to talk about what you're putting together. Again, we mentioned that you are the founder of Brookhaven Counseling and Consulting Services, and that Flow 2026 is your brainchild, is what you have said. I am creating, I'm going to be bold, and I'm going to put this out. So, talk about
Yes.
Flow.
So during the after I graduated from graduate school, I was able to sit for and be successful with each of the exams I needed in order to get my full licensure. And I noticed that so many of my classmates who were good therapists, who were really intelligent people, for whatever reason, they weren't able to pass those exams. And so that idea launched me doing a 2-day workshop called Life After MSW to give them the preparation that they needed to kind of be successful on those exams. And I started that in 2018 or so. Over the pandemic, I started to learn more about speaking engagements and conferences and summits. And then when the world opened back up, I decided that I would try to go and speak at some of them. And so I was being invited to speak at summits. I was being called upon to do workshops and trainings. And I noticed as I traveled to this place, as I went into this room, that there were not a lot of people who looked like me. There were not a lot of people who came from the neighborhood that I came from. And those who did look like me and those who were from the areas that I were from, they were not in leadership. Their voices were not necessarily considered. And so I saw that enough that, to someone else, it would makes you assume that those voices don't exist from Black people. And I know different. I know that there are brilliant therapists and brilliant mental health providers who have a voice, who just need a space to be able to share their area of expertise in a way that will benefit the population that we serve. So, Flow was born from the idea that we also are experts and we also have a voice that needs to be heard.
Oh, that's amazing. What are the dates for Flow?
Sure. So Flow is June 6th, 2026, starting at 8 a.m. And it's an all day experience. So people will be with us until 5.
One of the things that you talk about is that you're all about community. You just
Yes.
don't learn for yourself or just learn for your business and your services. What's the role of community? And we're hearing that word more and more and more.
So I am not a success just because of my own doing. It was people in my community who reached out to me with their hand. It was people in my community who attempted to show me what to do and what not to do. And I just believe that it takes a village to make all of us great. And so, the same way that I was able to benefit from community, I feel like it's my duty and actually my honor to reach back to look at my community and say, on my way up, who can I pull up? Who can I give a hand to? And also, I can't provide therapy for everybody in the city or in the state, right? And so I want to create a space that trains other therapists that can do the thing well.
That's amazing. Is there a website or a way in which someone can sign up? And we just had some comments from Wendy saying, "This is right on time for me." That's what
Great.
I love. And you never know what you're saying, right? You never know what's going to really ignite someone and get them saying, you know what? this is what I need to continue to do and to have that boldness. How do people reach you?
Sure. So brookhavenhelps.com is our website. You can go there to register for Flow. You can send me an email via the website, and I am excited to hear from you.
Well, I'm so excited that you have been a real is the first guest of season 7. I love the number 7. It's in my birthday. It's in my birth year, the number 7. So
Okay.
I don't know what that means. I'm just sharing. I'm just saying. But thank you so much for being with us on the show today. We
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.